Good morning, everyone. And since I have the privilege of moderating this amazing panel where we have Professor Gadgil, who in my brief conversation with him, I think he got out the essence of what he is. He said, I am a person of the grassroots, and I carry that voice. And that voice, which often doesn't reach places where it should, I carry that voice. Mrs. Meera Shankar, with her huge experience, which Harry already spoke about, who served with 4 prime ministers. Is that right, Mr. Shankar? And Mr. Tom Alter, who has an acting career which straddles across 4 decades. So I will keep my comments at the minimal and give you an opportunity to hear from these 3 amazing persons about what their take is on the epical shift in the idea of India. Professor Gadgil, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here and talk about what I actually have been seeing on the ground for last, whatever, more than 4 decades in various parts of the country, which is almost never reflected in official documentation and does not seem to figure in the discourse of people, such as all of us here, by and large. Let me just give an example. The government of Goa asked me to look at the environmental impact assessment reports for various mines which have been operating in Goa. If you read those reports, you will get an idea that this Goa, where you are sitting, is a waterless, treeless, barren wasteland. Every environmental impact assessment report says that where the mine is located is barren. There are no streams, no brooks bubbling out of those hills. There is no tree growth. There is nothing. And this is across the board. And I have spent many, many years. I grew up reading the poetry of Bakibab Borkar of Goa and of its nature and the charms of the nature. And I have enjoyed that traveling across Western Ghats. And this is simply a brazen lie. All the mines are located where there are a number of brooks coming out of the hill, all of whose existence is denied in those reports. There is a very good tree growth, all of which is denied in those reports. And this is the kind of thing which gets recorded and becomes a part of the discourse. Of course, if Goa is a treeless, waterless, barren wasteland, then the road to prosperity is to mine. Well, mining may be very desirable, but certainly it should not be promoted by giving such a false picture. Now, this is, I am afraid, uniformly being followed. That you have a very distorted picture of what is going on the ground, not just in terms of nature, but in terms of livelihoods of people. You said 2 Indias, but really there are many, many Indias. I have spent a long time working with cookies in Manipur also, and our Bagayatdars of Goa, they are very different. And, there are just over the Western Ghat, hundreds of Indias, so to say. And much of this India feels disempowered. Let me take concrete example. People, you may excuse me, but as I said, I believe in actually seeing what is going on the ground in concretely, and I will take names also. But all of this, what I'm talking about, we have formally documented in a Government of India report, Western Ghats Ecology Expert Panel report, with good evidence. There is a project, thermal power project, at a place called Ranpar in Ratnagiri district. Now, this area was a very prosperous fishing area. And there was a Sawant committee, I think it was, which had recommended that that estuary, where now the project has come up, should be developed as a fishing port. It's a very promising fishing area. Fidolex set up the project telling the people that this is going to be a PVC pipe production unit. Fine, people were very happy. We'll get some employment. This would be good. A PVC pipe production unit would be good for us. Without informing them, it was changed to a coal-based thermal power plant. Fine, and what happens next? The coal has to come and be picked up from the estuary. So, the fishing port project, the fishermen were insisting should be implemented. Finolex has gone to the High Court and brought a stay. Today, fishing has been wiped out of that estuary. Now, these are the consequences. Now, we are talking about aspirations of the people. I spent a lot of time talking to fishermen of the West Coast particularly. Their aspirations are certainly to have more prosperous fishing. Their aspirations are not to be doing something else. Now, the women folk of Ranpar, they tell me, Finolex factory has a corporate social responsibility program, and they are running tailoring classes for us. They said, we don't want to become darjis, we want to sell fish which our people catch. This is what we really enjoy, and you should see the lively fisherwomen of our West Coast. So these are issues which are, and this never gets reported. None of this will get reported. And when it gets reported in a report like our Western Ghat Ecology Expert Panel, regretfully, the response of the government is to first suppress it. After a lot of challenges under RTI and running to High Court, Delhi High Court against the order of Central Information Commission, finally it has to be made available. And then what is the response? The Maharashtra government publishes an apparently authentic Marathi summary, which actually distorts what is in the report and gives people a completely wrong impression. So this is unfortunately at the grassroots the picture that yes, certainly there is development, there is economic prosperity, which is restricted to a certain portion of the Indian population. And the best framework to my mind, let me close with this, to think of these issues is what Joseph Stiglitz proposes. Joseph Stiglitz is a distinguished economist, a Nobel Prize winner, one-time chairman of Bill Clinton's Economic Advisory Council. He says economic growth should not be thought of merely as GDP or related growth. There are 4 capital stocks of a nation. There is the, of course, man-made production, which is reflected in GDP, but there is also natural capital, there is human capital, and there is social capital. Now, what is happening today should be judged in terms of what is happening to all these 4 capitals together. We have no proper information available really on the natural capital, on the social capital, human capital. Employment, we talk all the time that this growth is important for employment, certainly. But I learned, I served briefly on the National Advisory Council, that we have, as economic growth rate increased, the employment generated in the organized sector has actually come down. When the rate of economic growth was something like 3-4%, the rate of growth of employment was 2% a year. Now it came down to 1%, some such. Anyway, I am no economist, but these are authentic figures which apparently were put before us. So there is this issue, and only something like 7 to 9% of the people are in the organized sectors about which this statistic is talking. 93% are in unorganized sector. If the fishermen of Ranpar have now become unemployed, there is no record. So these are the issues. I think certainly, I mean, I'm all in favor, and I was really delighted when our respected Prime Minister in his first victory speech said that Vikas ko Janandolan banayenge. So I thought perhaps there is going to be an epical shift and people are going to be empowered. But I am afraid people, if anything, feel even further disempowered today. Thank you.